So, anyway, I guess we can just start. I mean, others can join in later. So, good afternoon, gentlemen. You're all welcome to this edition of Irawo monthly conversation. And our guest today, the first time we are having it on a digital platform, precisely because of the way things are with COVID-19, is no other than Dr. Jibril Abdulmalik. He's a founder of Asido Foundation and a consultant psychiatrist in University College Hospital, Ibadan. Welcome, sir. Let me.
Right. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone, and thanks for having me.
A pleasure, sir. So, Doc will be talking to us about mental health and coping strategies during this pandemic that has assailed the entire globe. We have about up to more than 1 million people infected, and many thousands have died. And in Nigeria, on 30th of May of March, the federal government announced a lockdown in Lagos, Abuja, and some parts of Ogun State. And 2 weeks afterwards, I think that's April 13th, this lockdown was extended for another 2 weeks. So, Dr. Jibril, how do we cope, sir?
Thank you very much. I have a set of PowerPoints, so I'm going to share my screen. So let me start from there and see if we can all see the screen. Is it coming up? Can you see my screen yet?
You started. Okay, yes, it's now up. Exactly.
Very good. Okay, so let me just take it to slideshow so it can be bigger.
Okay.
Right, I hope we can all see it. So it's a pleasure again to be with you. Let me confess that when I was an undergraduate in UI, I always used to be envious of those staying at Irawo because it was like VIP accommodation, you know, so I didn't have the good fortune, but at least I had friends there that I visited from time to time. So I think it's a fantastic initiative that is very conducive to learning. So it's kudos to all of you who are contributing in one way or the other to support it. And one tradition that has also been very well established with Catholic organization is that of scholarship. And I was fortunate to attend a primary school that was a Catholic school. And when I was in the university, I always attended the Dominican Institute at Samonda because they also used to have monthly lectures. I don't know if they still do now, and they bring people from all over. There was a time when I was a student that they brought Professor Patutomi to come and speak on youth and ethics and hard work and stuff like that. And so I'm very happy that this tradition is being sustained and that all of you are contributing to make it a success. So let's get down to the business of the day, which is mental health aspects of COVID-19. I would just follow this outline very quickly, an introduction, because there are so many misconceptions about mental health that every talk I give, I always start with clarifying some of the basic concepts we should know. Then goes to the COVID-19 itself, mental health concerns, and then the meat of the matter is how we should cope. And then we'll conclude. So by way of introduction, we should remember that the WHO defines health as 3 things. I've mentioned this severally, so I'm sure we are familiar with this. I'll go very quickly, but 3 things make up health. It's a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. We are all familiar with the physical because if we have diarrhea, nobody will tell us to go to hospital. If we have a fever, we will go to hospital immediately. But it's the mental aspects that's always shrouded with mystery and secrecy. So our focus is on mental aspects of health, in this case, as it relates to COVID-19 specifically. So this is just showing the relationship between physical, social, and mental aspects of health. For instance, if I suffer a stroke now and I'm conscious but can no longer speak, or I have an accident traveling to Lagos and I become paralyzed from my neck downwards, it will not be surprising, or I have a diagnosis of cancer. It will not be surprising, even though what I have is a physical condition, that I may become depressed. I will not be happy with my situation. So in that situation, you have physical health condition causing mental health complication. On the other hand, you can also have a mental health problem that will also lead to physical complications. For instance, if you are abusing drug abuse, drinking alcohol excessively, and so on, it can damage your liver. And what is a mental health problem of abusing drugs can lead to physical illness. Social problems too. If a couple and a woman is being battered black and blue by her husband, and she becomes depressed, no amount of medications, even a truckloads of antidepressants, will not solve her depression if the beating and the harassment and the inconvenient home environment remains. So, and that is a social problem. So social problems can lead to mental health problems, which can also lead to physical problems. So this is what we are trying to show with this slide, that the three of them are interwoven and they all depend on each other. Now, the WHO defines mental health as the ability to fulfill four major attributes. The first attribute is to fulfill your own potentials. This is critical because that's why it's number one. Each and every one of us here in this discussion today, we are all unique and different. Our fingerprints are different. Even if we are identical twins, no two human beings ever will have the same fingerprint. So we are unique. So as unique as we are, how do you fulfill your own potential? You need optimal mental health to be able to fulfill your potential. The second attribute is to cope with the normal stress of day-to-day living. What that means is that no matter who you are going to face stress in your day-to-day life. Donald Trump is facing a lot of stress. He wants to win re-election in November. He doesn't know how to deal with COVID-19. Dangote, Bill Gates, whoever you are, Buhari, whoever you are going to have to deal with stress in your day-to-day life. It's just that the nature of the stress differs from person A to person B. Your ability to cope with the normal stress, that's why this is WHO terminology, not me saying it. Normal stress of life. Your ability to cope depends on your mental well-being. The third feature is the ability to work productively. And if you are a student, your job is to study. Okay, and if you are a worker in an office or in a business, then whatever your job description is, your ability to work productively is dependent on your mental health. And the last attribute is to participate meaningfully in the community, because as human beings, we are social animals. We do not live in isolation. In fact, if there's any lesson that we've learned from this COVID-19 pandemic so far, it is that the entire world, we are one family. Something that started in a remote city of Wuhan in China is what has paralyzed the whole world today. And we need people to behave responsibly for us to be able to control this pandemic, which means that we are all interrelated and we all need to work together as one community. So therefore, your ability to participate responsibly and meaningfully in community life, and the smallest unit of the community is the family. So all of this is dependent on your mental well-being. So this is the WHO's definition of mental health: ability to do these four things: fulfill your potential, cope with the normal stress of life, work productively, participate meaningfully in society. So it's important for us to appreciate that between mental health and mental illness is a spectrum, right? Whether it's that circle that is mental health, you can also replace it as physical health and replace the other one with physical illness. The reality is that it is a continuum. All of us participating in this discussion now, there is nobody here who has 100% physical health. Some of us now may be having some headache, we may have some abdominal discomfort, or we may have some muscle pain, which means that you're not 100% physically healthy. But there is also no one, even the person who has cancer, even the person who is infected with coronavirus, there is no person that has zero physical health, right? Because even if you have cancer, the cancer may be affecting one part of your body, but the other organs of your body may be functioning well. You may have coronavirus and may be having difficulty breathing, but your heart may be working well. Your kidneys may be in good state. So nobody has zero and nobody is at 100. So when we come to mental health and mental illness too, there is nobody that is 100% mentally healthy. And there is nobody that is at zero mental illness. Because all of us, we have some anxieties, we have some worries. This COVID-19, hope I won't get infected, hope my business will not go to ruin, hope this will not happen. We all have some anxiety from time to time. And even the person that is roaming the streets naked, that we say this one is stark raving mad, even such an individual can get to the junction and control traffic and direct traffic perfectly, which means that even such an individual retains some functioning of his or her brain in different, so nobody is zero, nobody is at 100. The reality, therefore, is that all of us, we are at different points along this continuum. And the whole essence of what we do, all of us, of every healthcare worker, is to try and push everybody, population health, from mental illness or from physical illness to approximate as closely as possible to ideal or 100% health, even though that is idealistic. Nobody will have 100, but we want to move as much further away from illness and disease as possible. That's the whole essence of healthcare. So if you look at it panoramically, healthcare starts from health promotion, which is promoting good well-being, eating well, exercising, that is health promotion. Then it goes to prevention. Then beyond prevention is early identification and treatment. And after that, we talk about rehabilitation. So that's the spectrum of healthcare. Promotion is the very first step. So we don't wait until you fall sick. By the time you fall sick, you're already on stage 3, which is promotion, prevention, early identification and treatment, before we talk of rehabilitation. So ideally, so this is just to put things in perspective. It's also very important as part of our introduction for us to appreciate that our brain is the headquarters of everything we do. The brain controls our thinking, our behavior, our memory, our judgment. Who we are is controlled by our brain. And this brain works in 2 ways. It uses electricity. Along the nerve, it is electrical current that is generated. Between the nerves, electricity cannot jump from one nerve to the other, and there is a gap. So between nerves, there is release of chemicals, which will then travel and bind to receptors in the other nerve and also stimulate another electrical current. So our brain works essentially in 2 ways, using electricity and chemicals. Diseases of electrical activity of the brain include things like epilepsy, right, where the person appears to be jacking and convulsing like wires are sparking. And that's more or less what's happening in the brain of someone who is having an epileptic attack. While mental health problems are due to chemical abnormalities in the brain, certain levels of chemicals are too low or too high. And just to further underline this issue of chemicals in the brain, everybody who takes drug, who abuses drugs, whether it's cocaine or heroin or tramadol or alcohol or cannabis, whatever drug you abuse, it makes you feel high by stimulating your brain to release the feel-good chemicals that will make you feel high and feel on top of the world at that time, for as long as the effect of that drug lasts. Then when the effect of that drug wears off, then the person suffers a crash. So that is just to further illustrate to us the fact that it is chemicals in our brain that controls most of what we do. This is contrary to African magic, where everybody that has a mental illness, according to African magic, is because of a spiritual attack or money ritual that backfired, and so on and so forth. And that African magic narration is deadly because, according to the African magic narration, if they take you to hospital, the doctors and nurses will say, we've done all the tests, we did not see anything. We don't know what is wrong. Maybe you should go and meet elders in your family. And that is misinformation. It's also important for us to know that there are several types of mental illnesses. from the mood disorders to psychotic disorders to anxiety disorders. All age groups can be affected. Children, such as having autism or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. In adulthood, such as having depression or psychosis. In the elderly, such as problems with dementia. We also have gender differences with mental health problems. Some are commoner in women, like depression, while some are commoner in men, like drug abuse and so on and so forth. It also does not discriminate by socioeconomic status, tribe, level of education, and so on. So now let's go to COVID-19 pandemic. We are all familiar with this. Important for me to stress that science teaches us humility, that we should not make unfounded claims. It's important for us to also make a distinction between infections and chronic medical conditions. Infections are caused by germs. And when you have an infection, we use antibiotics, for instance, to cure it, and it goes. And after that, you are cured. But chronic medical conditions are not infections, and we don't talk about cure for chronic medical conditions. For instance, having diabetes, we don't cure diabetes. It means that when you have diabetes, what it means is that your body is not utilizing glucose, and glucose is the fuel for our body. What it means is that your body is not utilizing glucose properly, and therefore, what you then need is your body needs assistance by way of medications, by way of diet, by way of lifestyle change, the diet so that you don't eat plenty of glucose at one sitting. So if you are going to take carbohydrate meals, you take them in small portions so that your body can easily handle it, and so on and so forth. So we don't cure diabetes. You manage it and control it for the rest of your life because it's a chronic medical condition. Same thing if you have hypertension. We don't cure hypertension. We control the blood pressure with medications and help your body to function better without the high blood pressure, because the high blood pressure will cause complications for you. So that's it. Most mental health problems are also chronic medical conditions that we do not cure, we manage and control. Now, we should know that there are different types of germs that cause infections. We have the good, the bad, the ugly. The good ones are bacteria, good because they are familiar, we know them, we have antibiotics that we use to treat them, and so they are very fairly straightforward. The bad, such as fungal infections, because they are a bit stubborn and may not go very quickly. And then we have the ugly, and those are the viruses. We should remember that the common catarrh, cold that we have is a viral infection, and it's been with us since time immemorial. We still do not have any cold medication. When you go to a pharmacy and say, give me cold medicine, what they are giving you are simply drugs that will help you to sleep well, to take care of your aches and pains, but there is no drug for the catarrh itself. HIV/AIDS is also caused by a virus. It's been with us for almost 40 years now. We still do not have effective treatment for HIV. The medications we have are drugs that help us to suppress the viral load so that you live your normal life without problems. The COVID-19 pandemic we are dealing with now is also caused by a virus, and it is new. So we are still learning how the virus behaves. So we do not have full information. And therefore, we are still some distance away from being able to have effective medications or vaccines against it. So that is the reality of where we are at the moment with respect to COVID-19. What we do know for sure is that it's a very contagious virus with a preference for the respiratory part of our body, from our throats down to the windpipe to our lungs. That's where it prefers to stay. That's the host part of our body. So it is spread when we talk and we spit, or we sneeze, or we cough, and we disperse the virus through coming from our respiratory tract through our mouth or through our nose. That's how it is spread. And we know that when the droplets land on surfaces, it can survive for hours and can even remain suspended in the air. That's why we are now encouraging that everybody should wear a mask. But if you wear a mask, I will protect you, you will protect me, because whatever I'm sneezing, if I'm infected, because I can be infected and not know. So if I'm infected and I'm sneezing, the mask will at least reduce the droplets from reaching you. And if you are also wearing a mask, it reduces it from reaching me. So it's because of this understanding that use of face mask is now being encouraged. It is killed by alcohol-based sanitizers and washing with soap. Soap also breaks the membrane of the virus, and that's why we are also encouraging frequent hand washing and use of hand sanitizers. Because even if the virus is on a surface and you touch it with your hand, unless you use your hand to touch your eyes or your nose or your mouth, it cannot be introduced into your body for it to go to where it wants to, which is your respiratory tract, including your lungs. Okay, so even if it's on your hands, if you wash your hands regularly, you will kill the virus and you will still remain safe, even though you've come in contact with the virus. And that, therefore, prevention is our best strategy. Remember, I said we don't have treatment for it yet. All the initial excitement about chloroquine and so on, the jury is still out. We don't have confirmed evidence yet that it works reliably. So what we know for sure is that at least you can protect yourself from being infected. But once you are infected, because there is no treatment yet, it is your immune system that will fight it, suppress it, and we know globally that the majority of those who are infected will recover by themselves. Their immune system will be able to suppress it. The same way our immune system deals with catarrh or cold when we have catarrh. We know all of the prevention strategies, so I won't waste too much time on them. Stay safe, stay at home, wash hands frequently, use a face mask if you have to go out. If you're in your house, you don't need a face mask, but once you are going out, it's best you have a face mask. Ensure strict social distance, avoid gatherings. That's why religious gatherings, parties, celebrations, and so on have been banned so that people clustering together is reduced. And then if you've been exposed, self-isolate for 14 days to confirm whether you're infected or not. And if symptoms appear, don't just carry your legs and walk into UCH or walk to a hospital. As we are seeing many people do. In fact, some people are even lying about their symptoms so that they will not know. But if you don't give us health workers the full information, how are we going to help you? If you present to a hospital and you have symptoms of COVID-19, we won't ask you to go and stay in your home. It's our responsibility. We've taken an oath to provide healthcare. Just that once you give us the right information, we'll take necessary precautions, but you will still get treatment. So if symptoms appear, call NCDC or call the hospital ahead to inform them so that they can make adequate preparations. Otherwise, you put everybody at risk. And more importantly, don't lie to health workers if you go to hospital and you have symptoms. So what are the mental health concerns? And this is where we are really going, just to list them, and then we focus on how to cope. The most important aspect of this COVID-19 is the fact that all of us as human beings, we have a sense of control over our life. We plan our life. We say, okay, by tomorrow I want to do this, by next week I want to do that, by next month I want to do so, and all of that. We wake up in the morning, we have a schedule. You have your bath, you have breakfast, you dress up, you go to work, or you go to school. Now we have a situation where that control, that sense of purpose and control has been stripped away from us. And we also have to deal with uncertainty. We don't know how long this is going to last for. Right? Not even the president of the US or the director general of WHO can beat his chest and say, by July, this will be over. Nobody can say that. So there's a lot of uncertainty. And then there's this feeling of helplessness. You've been asked to stay at home. You can't go to work. Children are not going to school. So there is this sense of loss of control. Some people have a lot of financial worries. What will happen to my business, and so on and so forth. Feelings of frustration and boredom. Dysfunctional families having to stay at home is a source of friction. And there's a lot of psychological stress, anxiety, fear. Fear such as, will I be infected? Will I die? Will I survive this coronavirus? Will my loved ones die? And so on and so forth. So there's a lot of fear and anxiety. Superimposed on all of this is watching global news and seeing how many people are dying globally from America, from Italy, and so on and so forth. There is also a lot of fake news, alarming information being shared on social media, and so on and so forth. All of this increases our stress, our anxiety, and predisposes individuals to becoming depressed. Some people will develop post-traumatic stress disorder. Some people develop depression and anxiety. Some people will start taking alcohol and drugs to calm their nerves so that they can at least cope. And we know that persistent stress and anxiety reduces our immunity. And I mentioned earlier that our immune system is the only protection we have against the coronavirus infection. So for all of us now, how do we maintain our sanity? How do we remain sane through this episode? The first question I would like to ask us is that the ball is in our hands. We need to determine which zone we want to be in. Do you want to be in the fear zone, the learning zone, or the growth zone? The ball is entirely in our hands. If you remain in the fear zone, you'll be driven by emotions, by fear, by panic. And when you are in that zone, you will not be using your higher thinking faculties. You will be using only your primitive parts of your brain. And that is not a good place to be in. The other part is to go to the learning zone, where you use the opportunity to learn about yourself, look at how you are reacting, self-evaluate, and so on, so that you understand yourself better and you can manage yourself better. And then the growth zone is the best, where you are looking at opportunities for self-development, you appreciate what you have, you are grateful for it, you also reach out to others, and so on and so forth. So that's the growth zone. That's the best. Now, these are just some tips by the Asido Foundation, which we've been sharing daily via all our social media handles, and I'll just run through them to illustrate how best to cope. Follow preventive recommendations. This should be a no-brainer. All of us should do this. We should appreciate that we are one humanity. We all need each other to succeed, okay? So we should reach out to our neighbors and so on and so forth. Those who do not have food to eat, we should try and see how we can support them, because we are all interdependent. We need to connect with our loved ones. The fact that you are staying at home does not mean that it is punishment. It's an opportunity for us to strengthen the ties of family, the ties of bonding with our children, with our siblings, with our spouses, with our parents. And even if we are not staying with them, we can use technology to call, to do video calls, and so on and so forth, so that we strengthen our relationship. It's important for us to control our anxiety. Remember, I mentioned that chronic anxiety and stress damages our immune system. So if you allow alarming social media messages to keep you anxious all the time, you are damaging your immune system, which is your only sure protection against COVID-19. So use social media, use technology to reach out to friends, to family, and stay in touch, even if you are physically staying in your house. This is a very good way of staying in touch with people so that you don't feel lonely, you don't feel isolated. We should remember to stay humble. If there's any lesson we need to learn, it is also the fact that so many things we thought previously, if we didn't have, we would die. Oh, if I don't travel to Dubai for summer, I will die. Oh, if I don't go to the movies, if I don't watch Premiership, if I don't do this. Now we are not doing all of this, and we are still alive and we are still functioning. So let's learn humility, that when push comes to shove, we can make do with bare essentials. It's very important for us to not turn to drug abuse to help us cope. If you do that, you are digging a completely fresh set of problems for yourself. So don't turn to drugs for solace. Instead of that, reach out to friends, reach out to family, and stay healthy. Avoid fear and panic. There are so many people, YouTube videos, so many forwarded messages that are meant to generate panic. Oh, it's 5G network. Oh, it's Chinese efforts to reduce global population, and so on and so forth. If you are driven by these fearful messages, you will just be using your primitive part of your brain alone, and you will not be thinking straight, in short. So we should avoid that. It's important for us to eat healthy, eat a balanced diet, drink plenty of water. Don't forget that our immune system is our sure banker defense system. So we need our immune system to be optimal, and that's why we need to eat well. And for those who are in our neighborhoods who are poor, we should also try to reach out to them. And I'm very happy that some religious bodies, some estates in Lagos and other places are providing at least one free meal per day to people in their vicinity. That's very commendable. Please, let's stay informed. Take your reliable information only from sources you can trust, like NCDC, like WHO. Don't follow forwarded as received messages on social media. Be proactive. Use the time of staying at home to plan these things you have always wanted to do that you didn't have time. Now you have time. You always wanted to learn how to use Excel. This is the time to learn it. So keep learning, keep growing, keep investing in yourself, developing yourself. By the time you begin to do these things, you will find that you will be busy and you will not be idle, you will not be bored, and you will not be feeling frustrated and so on. Very important to stay positive that this will pass. Pandemics and epidemics have always come and gone. 2014, we were all shouting about Ebola. Now it's ancient history. Now is the turn of COVID-19. It will come and it will go. Our prayer is just that we all survive it and so on and so forth. So remember that we also have children. They also have a lot of concerns about it. We need to talk to them, explain what is happening. Their schools have been closed. They cannot visit their friends. We need to explain to them what is going on, okay, so that we carry them along and also try and understand what they need. So if despite all of these tips that we provided, if you are still having a lot of emotional problems and difficulties coping, the Asido Foundation, which is the NGO we run, has a helpline, 0902-8080-416. We have a helpline that you can reach out to and you will speak to competent mental health professionals who will help you to navigate and cope with the situation. So in conclusion, it is in our hands. We can't change the circumstances. We didn't bring the COVID-19 pandemic, but it's here and we have to deal with it. How we control our reactions, that is 100% in our hands. So let's pay more attention to our health holistically. Our physical health by eating healthy, following preventive guidelines, our mental health to stay sane through it all, our social health by bonding closer with our family, with our friends, and spending quality time with them. Let's remember that Nelson Mandela was in isolation, solitary confinement for 27 years. He didn't see his family, he didn't have television, he didn't have mobile phones, but all he had was his vision and he survived. Okay, so this hardship, as tough as it is, we can definitely survive it. Let's remain optimistic. And as in the words of Nelson Mandela, it always seems impossible until it's done. Thank you very much. So that's my email address. And I encourage all of us to please follow Asido Foundation on all social media handles so you can receive our positive, encouraging messages on a daily basis. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much, sir. This is wonderful. I think the underlining message, among other things, is that it's in our hands. We didn't bring the circumstances upon ourselves. We found ourselves in it, and we can't do anything about it, but we can do a lot about our own reactions to this. So we now make this open. The floor is now open for questions, comments, remarks, as it might be. So you can either, I think Zoom allows the thing of raising your hand so that I'll be able to see and ask your question, or send it via the chat, whichever one you prefer. Any questions or comments? And also something, perhaps by when we want to ask questions, to introduce ourselves, so at least to give Dr. Abdulmalik sort of background, best way to answer the question. Okay, we have one question, Kenneth. So, I think I have Kenneth, I think you have a question. Okay, while we wait for Kenneth to ask this question, you can unmute yourself. I think I did. Let me see. Kenneth. Okay, Kenneth Tigiri. You have a question? Kenneth? Okay.
I think so.
Okay, yeah. So you just unmuted now.
Okay, okay.
So my question basically is regarding the aspect of I understand that the situation did not come by any of our doing, and
Yeah.
but we can control how we react to it. I basically have been
What
so
was it now?
a lot of
Many
people
people
around
that around that time.
been
So,
finding it difficult to handle this current situation. How do I
sorry, let me unmute because I muted everybody and we started getting so much noise. So sorry, Kenneth. I'll get to you. So sorry, Kenneth, please, how can continue with your question?
Okay, so basically what I was saying was, how do I help those around me know that this is not the end of the world kind of situation? Because a lot of people around me have been finding it difficult to handle this stuff. People are angry, shouting there's no money, there's no food, things like that. How can I help those around my circle basically to handle this situation better? Hello?
Yeah. Okay, Doc, sorry. Yeah,
Okay.
Doc.
Yeah, thank you very much. I was on mute.
Oh,
So
sorry,
thank you
I
very much.
muted everybody.
Yeah, it is fine. Thank you very much for the comment. It's very important. The issue of, and I saw somebody also mentioned it in the chat. I'm not sure who that was. That's financial health. Regis Uzoma also mentioned financial health. The issue is this: health is wealth. At the moment, if you are not healthy, if any of us is infected, God forbid, if I were to be infected now and I'm in intensive care and I'm struggling to breathe, right? And I'm on a ventilator and I don't know, I mean, we all saw what Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister of the UK, said, that it was 50-50 when he deteriorated and he was taken to ICU. He could very easily have died because things went badly. If any of us, if I am infected, I'm in ICU and I'm struggling to breathe, at that time, I will not be worrying about hunger. I will not be worrying about loss of revenue. I will not be worrying about loss of business opportunities. I will only be focused on surviving. Let me just survive. Let me just be able to breathe. It's when I survive, because when you are healthy and you are alive, you can always recreate wealth. So for individuals who are hungry or who are having difficulties with financial concerns, they need to look at the glass, that is this glass half full or half empty? If you look at it as half empty, then you'll be worried and pessimistic and angry and upset. But if you look at it as half full, to say, at least I'm still alive, at least I'm healthy, at least I'm not in hospital, at least even if I'm in hospital, I'm not struggling to breathe, to survive. Okay, so if we look at it from this perspective, we should be able to manage the inconvenience. I am not by any way downplaying the inconvenience, but I'm just saying that the perspective to which we look at it will determine our state of mind and our ability to cope. So let's put a positive spin on it and encourage one another. We will have our low moments, but let's encourage one another, support each other to get through this tough time, and things will get better, definitely.
Doc, we have another question here, at least in the chats, and this first one is from Dr. Chinebezeku. He's asking, how do we help our friends or associates who seem to be unwilling or able to get out of the fear zone?
Right, thank you very much. It's important that we support them, we encourage them, we give them the counter fear. So let me put it this way. There is 3F. Reality is that those who are infected will die. So that means if 100 people are infected with coronavirus, 95 to 97 out of that 100 will survive. Or if 10 people are infected, 9 of them will survive. So the chances, those who will die are those who have pre-existing medical problems like heart disease, lung problems, those who are smokers, and so on and so forth, or those who had cancer pre-existing. Those are the ones at increase, or the elderly. They are the ones at very high chance of dying from it. So if you look at all the facts, there is more reason to be hopeful than to be fearful. So please, those who remain in the fear zone, encourage them with the facts of the case and let them take solace in the fact that the chances, it's not that once you have the infection, you will die. And in any case, everybody will not have the infection. So that's something that should give us hope.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, sir. Another question from Chima in the chat. He says, on the issue of depression and low self-esteem, how does one accompany an individual with such tendency this period?
Yeah, right. Thank you very much. That's very important. We all have a role to play. One very important role we can play is simply be there for them. Just let them know that you care. Call them every day to check on them to see how they are doing. Ask how they are doing. Let them know that you have concern for them, especially because over in the past few days now, we had reports of 2 young girls that committed suicide differently in Lagos. And one of them had appeared to have been posting very sad poetry and complaining about her emotional pain and so on for more than 11 months before she eventually committed suicide. And she had friends, and there are people reading her posts on Facebook. So what we need to all do, we don't need to be a psychiatrist or a psychologist. You just need to be there for your friends, for your family. Be present in their life. And when you know that they are feeling low, please offer a helping hand. Let them know that you genuinely care for their well-being, okay? And keep encouraging them, give them hope. And that goes a long way. Lastly, before I end this question, there have been studies that have shown that mere befriending is better than nothing for patients with depression. Befriending not in terms of romantic boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. Befriending simply having somebody come and knock on your door and say, oh boy, how fun, I don't tell where I see you. I just make I check on you. How you dey? Hope everything dey okay. That is, it's simple, no special training. Villagers in East Africa, they did that randomized controlled trial, and they found that simply having somebody check on you, ask after how you are doing, is better than nothing. For patients who have depression, they get better. Okay, their symptoms improve compared to those who do not have anybody to ask after them. So if you have people like this in your circle, please let them know that you are concerned about them, you are there for them, you are ready to help them, keep checking on them, keep encouraging them. It will go a long way. So that is what I would recommend.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Another question, first from Toba, who is one of your students. I mean, he has been telling you what his Toba Gunfogaji, what his question. He's an amiable teacher, as he says, as he wrote in the chat. He said, how do we deal with our parents and family? Sir?
My colleague now.
Yeah, has he graduated? But anyway. How do we deal with our parents and family who refuse to keep with preventive measures or don't believe anything about the coronavirus, because this is another cause of anxiety to most people?
Well, again, I will advocate again the 3F. Fight fear with facts. Fight disbelief with facts. Give them the facts of the information. I know there are many educated people today who believe that it's a hoax. There's nothing like coronavirus. It is manufactured. It's meant to control the world. It is 5G conspiracy. It is all sorts of conspiracy theories. The best you can do is to try and explain to them, give them facts, and let them know that this is the reality, and that this is what's happening, and that many people are dying, and that we can't be faking people's death. Abba Kyari is dead now. He was very powerful. Would he have wanted to die? Is it fake that he's dead? You know, it's so, there are thousands of people dying globally. So we shouldn't disrespect their memory by saying it's conspiracy, there's nothing like that. If there's nothing like that, what is killing people? You know, so and once we agree that there's something that is killing people, then it doesn't hurt to take preventive measures. We should always err on the side of caution. But I know many people will not agree. There are many people, in fact, I still argue with someone yesterday who said there's nothing like coronavirus. Initially, I felt like just walking away, but eventually I engaged the person. The person, I was still didn't succeed in convincing the person. So there are people like that. So, but you can only try your best. You can't open their head and go and change a switch there. That's why we are all independent-minded human beings, unfortunately.
Okay. Dr. Biamata raised his hand for a question. So, or since I don't know whether he's still in the chat, but while we wait for him, I'll read out two more questions. And this is from Dr. Ifanyeze. Thanks for the presentation. He says, what is the value of the use of timetable during this period?
Thank you very much. As human beings, we are creatures of habits. It helps a lot to have structure, and timetable can very much help us. Don't forget, I mentioned on that part of the problem that we have lost control over our personal life, and that's part of the things that makes us feel very helpless. Previously, you wake up in the morning, you take your bath, you dress up, you go to the office, or you take your children to school, and so on. Now, there is no structure. You wake up, you are not going anywhere. You may not bath until 12 noon. You may not bath for the whole day. You may stay in bed watching TV. And that increases the feeling of helplessness and boredom. So having a timetable is a way of regaining control and mastery over your own personal life. So you can draw a structure to say, on Sunday, I worship in the morning. In the afternoon, I would read novels. Then by Monday, I wake up by 6, I'll say my prayers, I'll take my bath by 8, I will dress up and go to my table, I will walk for 3 hours or 4 hours from 8 to 12 or from 9 to 12, then I'll take a break till 3, then 3 to 5, I'll walk, then from 5 to 7, I will exercise, and then I'll take dinner at 8, and so on. You know, so having today is Saturday, this is what I should be doing. So that gives you like purpose and a drive. So that's and in a way, psychologically, it helps you regain control to feel that you are in charge of your own life and you're planning your life. So that's a way by which timetable can be very helpful. So thank you very much, Dr. Ifanyeze, for that comment. Very helpful.
Another question is from Dr. Bumi Arawunda. It seems there are plenty of doctors. Doctors very full here. His question is, he says, how do we address the competing issue of food security for the masses? This is a social problem which can lead to mental stress and subsequently physical health. Can the government's lockdown policies be made somewhat more appropriate to the local situation of the most people? For instance, persons who live from day to day. How can we advocate that key workers in the developing country is really difficult to define when most people are fending for themselves?
Right. I mentioned it in passing during my when I was talking about eating balanced diet, that the government, unfortunately, you and I, we are all Nigerians. We know that our social services, our social welfare is next to non-existent. So we need the government. They've been talking palliative. Me, I have not seen anything. I don't know if you have seen anything. You understand? And this is a big problem. What we are now doing is, as like always, in Nigeria, we sink our borehole or you sink your well. You get your own generator to give yourself light. You employ gateman to give yourself security. Now is the same thing people are doing, that in estates, people like I mentioned in Lekki, in some estates in Lekki, some churches, some religious organizations, they are now providing food, providing basic supplies and distributing it to the needy around them. These are the ways we can, because if someone has not eaten food, there's nothing you're going to tell them. So we need our government, all of us needs to make more noise, to put pressure on government, not just the federal government, state government, local government, they are all collecting allocations monthly. So if the local government reach out to the people in the local vicinity and the state government is reaching out, then you don't even need something to come from Abuja. Okay, so these are the things, but our elected politicians are just interested in their personal pocket, unfortunately, and they are not interested in social welfare mechanism. So please let us, like the neighborhood where I live, we are also doing some voluntary fundraising to supply food items to the needy in our own neighborhood. So everybody needs to come together that way and see the little we can do. And ultimately, all the small drops will add up. Right, so let me just, can I read? I'm seeing the chat. Can I just read and respond?
Okay, yes, please.
So Chima says, can we get the slides for some personal study? I'm happy to share the slides, not a problem. IBK, thank you. We appreciate your passion and the work you're doing, Asido. Thank you very much. God bless you too. Please, I encourage all of you to please follow our social media handles and share our messages, because the ultimate idea behind the Asido Foundation is to improve mental health awareness in our society. And now during this COVID-19 pandemic, even more than before, we need to keep getting these positive messages out there. So thank you very much, IBK. We'll upload the presentation on, okay, great, on YouTube. Excellent. Thank you for this. Kudos to Irawo Center. Excellent. I join you in giving kudos to Irawo Center too. Thank you very much. Can we utilize market women and NURT to serve as stakeholders to reach more? Absolutely. I mean, if the government wants to distribute palliatives during the time of election, don't they know how they distribute Gari and rice? So, I mean, if you go to NURTW, if you go to the market women, they know how to distribute and it will get to all their members. So during time of election, they know how to distribute. But now, because it's COVID-19, is now becoming like rocket science to know how to distribute palliative. It shouldn't be. So I agree with you perfectly. Those are very useful, locally grounded unions that can be used to reach everybody. Thank you. I think that's the last comment.
And thanks from, I think we have another question from Bumi, the chat.
Okay. From Bumi Olorun, which other online resources like Asido Foundation are available? I know Mani provides free call access. We also provide, through our helpline, we also provide free access. You just need to send us a message. We will call you back using our own credit and you speak to mental health professionals, psychiatrists, psychologists, psychiatric nurses. Unfortunately, the field of mental health advocacy and mental health NGOs is still underdeveloped in Nigeria, so we are not many. And so apart from Mani and Asido Foundation, there are not many others that I can readily think of to recommend.
So I wanted to ask, as it is now, is there any national integration of psychiatry towards the fight, as it were, to mitigate COVID-19, at least on a broad national level? Because you hear so much from the Nigerian Center for Disease Control and get tested, wash your hands, but hardly on this other aspect.
Right. Well, we've offered our services. At the moment, there is a coalition of mental health NGOs, as well as the Association of Psychiatrists in Nigeria and Association of Clinical Psychologists. And we formed what we call COVID-19 Partners for Mental Health. And we are ready to offer our services free to support the services, to support the COVID-19 response. But you know, the thing with government is they need to welcome you. You can't impose yourself on them. So at the moment, there is no element of mental health in the task force, both at national and at state level, to the best of my knowledge thus far. We hope that because even on CNN, even in the US, you hear them talking about mental health aspects. WHO have issued recommendations along those lines because it's truly having an impact on people's emotional well-being. But it's left for our government at federal and state level to welcome this partnership and utilize the expertise to improve the service they are delivering.
Do we have more questions or comments?
Let me just quickly mention this invitation. The Asido Foundation has a Telegram community, and every month we have an interactive monthly community engagement online, just like this, but ours is not video, it's by chatting. And every month we have someone come to speak on a topical topic. So this Monday, which is in 2 days' time, we are having the April edition, and we have an expert who is going to talk to us about anxiety, dealing and coping with anxiety around COVID-19 pandemic. That will be the topic for that day. It's at 5 p.m., so I will invite as many as can make it to also join us. And if you have friends and others you think are dealing with anxiety problems, encourage them to also come online at 5 p.m. on Monday, go to the Telegram page of Asido Foundation and join. I can share the link. I'll type the link in the chat group so that for those who may be interested, you can join us at 5 p.m. on Monday. You are invited to participate. Thank you very much.
So we have any more questions or comments? Okay, Caleb family wants to say something.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Abdulmalik. My question is regarding the current situation now in the country, Nigeria. Yeah. My question is, do you think the religious leaders, do you think they're actually helping in any regard concerning their followers as regard the COVID-19 pandemic? Because I have been following lately regarding some of the teachings some of these religious leaders have been giving to their followers in a bid to alleviate their anxiety and fears. I've gathered most of them have been given some false and spurious information regarding the COVID-19. Do you think this information they've been giving to their members have been helpful in terms of the Nigerian citizenry, in terms of their mental health? Because some have been told COVID-19 is not real, and some are believing it, they are associating it with some rapture, with some other things that we know are far-fetched. There's no evidence based regarding this teachings given to them. So do you think it's helping Nigerian the mental health of Nigerians in terms of really alleviating their concern, or you think it's actually even worsening the situation? How do psychiatrists and psychologists, even psychiatric nurses, how do they come into play to correct this notion that is ongoing at the moment in Nigeria? Because from my end, I'm a bit worried, I'm concerned, because obviously I think it's adding to is making the situation worse. What do you think?
Right. Thank you very much, Caleb family. It's it's factual that in fact at the very beginning some religious leaders in Nigeria didn't even encourage their leaders, their followership congregation to still come out for prayers or for religious, both in the north and in the south, and that's crazy. The problem we have, the Achilles heel of our country, is that we tend to have a blind spot when it comes to religion. Everybody, you want to walk very gingerly around religious issues because we are very sensitive. But we should be firm when we need to. In fact, if you ask me, my personal opinion, I actually believe that clergy and religious bodies should be licensed as they do in Europe and America, and they renew their license. And if you preach nonsense, your license will be revoked and your place will be shut, because we are religious and we take the words from the pulpit or from the imam as God speaking. And so, we had problems in the north when I used to work in the north with immunization. When they said, no, it's a propaganda to make all our children sterile. So don't vaccine, and that will cause a big public health problem. So when you have people like this, that are misinforming the community and the society that can lead to potential damage or harm to society, they need to be cautioned and there needs to be deterrence. But our government, as you know, will never take this head on, which is a shame, really. What I think we can do and what government should do is to reach out to them using a soft diplomacy approach. The government needs to have a roster of all religious organizations in every state. They need to invite all of them to regular meetings. They need to be trained and educated on some basic things, especially public health issues, so that they don't mount the rostrum and they feed people wrong information. They may be very learned in terms of theology, but they may be completely ignorant in terms of public health or in terms of mental. Nobody knows it all. If you start asking me Christian theology now, I will fail. I'll get an F9. But if you ask me about mental health, that's my area of expertise, I should score an A. So there is no shame in having some sort of soft education, advocacy, awareness, and training to them if they are humble enough to want to listen, because some also have gotten it into their head that they are walking on the air and nobody can talk to them and so on and so forth. So that's part of the problem. So, but ultimately, I think it's the responsibility of the government to be firm and decisive, especially where it is leading to public, it's not in the public interest for those type of misinformation and harmful propaganda to be spread to the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abdulmalik. I'm grateful. Thanks, that's brilliant.
Thank you. So I have a question from Olagunju Temitayo that the grim information overload can be depressing. What practical tips can we include in our daily time? My recommendation is if watching CNN or going through social media is giving you anxiety, please shut it out. You will not die if you don't watch CNN every day. And if something is really important, you will get to know secondarily. People, your family, other people will call you and say, this is happening. So, because I agree with you, truly, and that's the responsibility of journalists. You know, you and I know, all of us here, because we're educated, we know that there is propaganda behind news. If you watch CNN, CNN is pro-Democrats and anti-Trump. And so they want to hammer on the COVID-19 and make Trump look foolish and hammer on all the negatives so that perhaps he will lose the election in November. I'm not an American, so I have no stake in their elections. But there is a propaganda narrative behind if you watch CNN and you watch Sky News, there is complete difference. Sky News is more balanced, it's more objective, it's not focusing on all the grim information. There are some positives, but if you go to CNN, you'll be depressed. Okay, and I think it's because of the political agenda of CNN, because of America's election coming up, and the fact that there is no love lost between CNN and Donald Trump. Donald Trump calls them fake news, and they too are happy to run him down. So if that is, you can change the channel. Okay, you can change the channel. Go to Sky News, go to BBC or Al Jazeera and avoid CNN. And if all of them are talking negative, you know, journalists believe that bad news sells. So if they put a headline, Nigeria in trouble, coronavirus explosion in Nigeria, everybody say, let me buy it. What are they saying? But if they say coronavirus is not going to kill many people, and people will say, you know, that's the media, unfortunately. So even media, we were talking about training clergy when I was discussing with Caleb. Even media, we need to train them on how to report news in a way that is helpful for public health, not in a way that will worsen the problem. Thank you very much for that contribution. And so someone says, Celestine says, I've blocked CNN since for my mental health. That's good for you. I give you thumbs up, my guy. You know.
Would you like to speak?
Oh, cool. Sorry. No, but I just wanted to say thanks, and it was also good to see Iberi's face. And thanks, Jibril. Good to see you. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you so much for your positive contribution and comment, and thanks too for your group that is sharing positive messages. That's way to go. We need everybody, every citizen, to be involved that way. To see, I mean, there is this Chinese proverb that says, "Light a candle, don't cause the darkness." If all of us gather and we are complaining from morning till evening, the situation will not change. But in your own little sphere of influence, the little good you can do, start something. So as Bumi Olonda has mentioned, they have a WhatsApp group where they share only positive and relaxing. That's something good. And the people in that group will gradually see that their emotional well-being will improve. So let all of us see what we can do in our little spheres of influence. It's not until the government, heaven will not transform Nigeria into paradise overnight. It starts from concerted efforts from each and every one of us. Let each and every one of us try to be good citizens first, then try to establish good families and raise good children, and then participate in good neighborliness, and then it will escalate. It won't happen overnight. We all need to play our roles, and I'm very happy that many people on this discussion are doing lots of positive things. Well done, and thank you very much.
Okay, and Tope Ogunwo is also thanking you, Dr. Jibril. I really appreciate your time out to be with us. Gentlemen, okay, if we do have more questions, otherwise, because we have already spent an hour and almost 15 minutes so far, and we have more questions or comments. Okay, it seems that the absence of questions and comments, so we are so grateful, and Dr. Abdulmalik for Biggie, as we echo what Caleb family just said, for enlightening us. I mean,
thank you very much for having me.
It's a real pleasure, always a pleasure. I could remember as well that you had also been with us physically in Irawo. That's sometime last year, and it was an eye opener. And we're also very grateful that as well that this conversation has taken place, because, as you rightly pointed out, this is one aspect of the COVID-19 that somehow there's absolutely little or no information or awareness or source of help for. We're so grateful, sir, on behalf of all of us in Irawo, and especially the young professional group. We're so grateful. And thank you very much for honoring our invitation.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, sir. So I think we'll call it a day. So before we go,